All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Wali Shah, and I am one of your hosts for today. And today is the third annual I Read Canadian Day. We are joined by so many different schools, students, and teachers all across Canada. Today is a day created by Canscape, the Canadian Children's Book Center, the Ontario Library Association, the Canadian School Journal, and author and good friend Eric Walters. Last year, we had almost 3,000 schools join us, and this year, well, I guess we're about to find out. But for everyone that's joined us today, if you guys can let us know where you are coming from, we'd love to know where in Canada we've got everyone joining us from. Before we get started, I want to pass it off to my co-host to say a few words and to introduce our very first speaker.
Bonjour tout le monde, je me présente, je m'appelle Mireille Messier. Merci Wally. Donc, bienvenue à tout le monde à cette troisième journée des livres canadiens. Pour moi, aujourd'hui, on va commencer avec un invité vraiment très spécial, a former teacher, the Right Honorable, l'honorable Justin Trudeau. Un mot pour nous.
Hello everyone, bonjour à tous, and happy I Read Canadian Day. Like many of you, I have warm memories of reading books as a kid that were written by Canadian authors. Gordon Corman, Dennis Lee, and Roch Carrier were just a few of those that sort of affected me for the rest of my life. And now, as a dad, I get to see my kids reading books by those same authors and new ones too. That's what I Read Canadian Day is all about. J'ai l'occasion de mettre les auteurs et les autrices du Canada à l'honneur, d'encourager plus de jeunes à lire et de prendre conscience de toute la richesse, la portée et la diversité de la littérature venant du Canada. Whether it's creating a book display or hosting an author at your school or library, there are endless ways to participate in this initiative. I Read Canadian Day wouldn't be possible without people like you, so thank you. Aujourd'hui et à chaque jour, continuons de promouvoir les auteurs et les illustrateurs canadiens. Apprenons à connaître les perspectives des peuples autochtones et de la diversité de communautés canadiennes et continuons de partager avec nos enfants tout l'émerveillement et le bonheur qu'apporte un nouveau livre. Encore une fois, bonne journée des livres canadiens pour moi.
We acknowledge that words and stories have been shared on this land for thousands of years. I Read Canadian operates on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Wendat peoples. This land is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We thank those who have cared for this land, and we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here and connect through stories. Nous reconnaissons que la terre sur laquelle nous nous réunissons est le territoire traditionnel de nombreuses nations, notamment les Mississaugas du Crédit, les Anishinaabe, les Chippewa, les Haudenosaunee et les Wendat, et abrite maintenant de nombreux peuples diversifiés des Premières Nations, des Inuits et des Métis. Nous remercions ceux qui ont veillé sur cette terre et nous sommes reconnaissants d'avoir l'opportunité de nous y rassembler. Merci à tous encore d'être ici. Our first guest is somebody that needs almost no introduction. Many people read her books and know her artwork. Je parle de la reine de la plasticine, Barbara Reid.
Happy I Read Canadian Day. My name is Barbara Reid, and I'm a Canadian picture book illustrator and author, and I'm joining you from my studio in my house in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, traditional territory of many nations. One of the best parts about my job has been having the opportunity to travel all over Canada, from coast to coast to coast and in between, and meet with kids and find out what they're reading, what they're drawing, what they're writing, and I bring home all kinds of ideas and pictures in my mind and stories from meeting kids, and those find their way into my books. Now, this is my newest book called I Love You More. It's written by Emile Scher, and it's much closer to home because Emile and I live in the same neighborhood in Toronto, and you'll see it in the book. The story came about from a word game that Emile played with his daughters as they were growing up. They would compete to come up with I love yous. Things like I love you more than socks, love feet. I love you more than birthday candles, love wishes. And Emile, he decided to collect up these I love yous and turn them into a story. So the story follows a little boy named Des through his day. In the beginning, he's a little grumpy, but his mom says she loves him more than flowers love noses. And by the end of the book, Des has heard enough of these little I love yous that he's ready to play the game himself. And he gives his own I love you more by the end of the book. Now, the exciting part for me was receiving these words, all this list of I love yous that Emile chose. When I see words, I get pictures in my mind. And right away, I start drawing and planning the book and making mistakes and crossing things out. But then I get ready to make the actual pictures. If you know anything about my art, you know I don't use watercolor paints or pencils. I use plasticine modeling clay. It's kind of heavy, but it is so fun. And using clay, I build up each illustration for the book. This is a picture from the book, and we see Des setting out in the morning on his way to school with his mom. And the fun part was making so many details. Some of these characters will pop up in the book. I've hidden more than 140 hearts in the book. So people that are good at reading pictures will find a lot of these clues and things, and even like a little raccoon is hidden behind the garbage can. So I hope that you have as much fun reading the words and pictures for I Love You More as we did creating the book. And I hope you have a fantastic I Read Canadian Day, whatever you choose to read. How much do I love reading Canadian? More than clay loves hands.
That was wonderful. Thank you, Barbara. Now, when I read Barbara's books, I read them in French. Où va le renard and Cadeau are two of my favorite Barbara Reid books.
Awesome. I think it's time for our next presenter. Are you ready for our next presenter, Mireille?
Oui, absolument.
Okay. Our next presenter is Yolanda T. Marshall, and I think the best person to introduce her is Yolanda herself.
Hi, I'm Yolanda T. Marshall, and I'm a Guyanese-born Canadian author. Now, I absolutely love being a Canadian author. It allows me to share my stories, to invite my readers into my world, into my diverse culture, to have a taste of all of our delicious foods, to have a dance of our vibrant music, and to learn about each other, to celebrate each other, celebrate our differences, our similarities, and celebrate ourselves. And this is why I love being a Canadian author. It allows me to offer representation of my community, of children who, like myself, and adults who didn't have books like the ones I wrote growing up. Isn't Canada beautiful? And there's so much to explore in our stories. I am the author of C is for Carnival. And as you can see, that's a Canadian flag. And they are so happy to be Canadian. Now, this book is about our Canadian Caribbean Carnival, an event that's been in Canada since the 60s. But we didn't have a book to celebrate that particular carnival. To talk about what is going on, what music are you hearing, why are we celebrating, right? Why are they wearing costumes? Well, C is for Carnival allows you to explore that entire parade, what we call Caravana. And I always love to share this story to remind kids this is our Canadian Caribbean Carnival. There are hundreds and thousands of people with Caribbean heritage in Canada. And this is the invitation into learning more about it. It's our carnival. So C is for Carnival takes an alphabetic journey into the parade. You will learn A is ask for a dance. B is for Bacchanal. C is for costumes you will see people wearing. D is for the steel drums. P is for the steel pans, right? And the pan man and the pan woman and the pan person that's playing it. There's so much to learn. Oh, our for roti, because we do love our food. Take a journey with me and explore the stories of many Canadian authors, and more so, learn about the cultures in Canada. And C is for carnival. I hope it allows you to feel, I would say, like you're in a fete. And we say fete, it means to party. Let's celebrate our Canadian Caribbean Carnival. Goodbye.
Merci, Yolanda. Oui, nous aussi, on dit fête. We use that word too. So that was very nice. Thank you. And what wonderful energy.
Absolutely. Our next guest is coming from British Columbia. She is a writer of many inspirational picture books and promotes a message of kindness.
Tanse and Dotimak. Hello, friends and relatives. I'm thrilled to be joining you for I Read Canada. My name is Monique Gray Smith, and I'm joining you today from my home office where I write from on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen and Senchothan speaking peoples, also known as Victoria, British Columbia. All the books I've written, this coming November 1st, the 10th book will come out. All of those books have been written on these territories. And I'm very grateful for the people who have cared for this land and these waters and the air. I write books for children, for young people, and for adults, all with woven in there the message that love is medicine. I have a writing partner who this morning didn't want to be part of the video. Her name is Piper, and she's our family cat. And one of the things that's really peculiar about her is that she loves coffee. But she is my usual companion, sitting back here on the couch or sometimes on my keyboard as I write. I am proud to be an author who writes in this place we call Canada. This place has nurtured me and my family for generations and generations and generations. My grandfather, Noel Nanape, comes from Papikassis First Nation in the Qu'Appelle Valley of Saskatchewan. And I'm also a mom of twins who just turned 19, who both also love to read. I have two books coming out this fall. Well, one that's already come out, this book here that is available in English and Nihawayan, I hope, illustrated by the incredible Gabrielle Grimard. So available in English and Cree, available in English, and available in French as well. And on November 1st, coming out is the adaptation of a book called Braiding Sweetgrass. So Braiding Sweetgrass was first published by Robin Wall Kimmerer. She's a botanist, and she weaves together Indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and knowledge of plants. And I did the adaptation for that book called Braiding Sweetgrass for Young Adults. And it has illustrations in it by illustrator Nicole Neidhart, who lives in Toronto. So this is an example of one of her illustrations, helping us to understand the beauty of asters and goldenrod. So much gratitude for being with you today. Thank you, thank you, thank you for reading Canadian books.
Merci, Monique. I've had the chance to do the French voice of some of Monique's books. And so she is also one of my favorite Canadian authors. So it was great to see her here today for I Read Canadian Day. Now, should we introduce the next guest, Wali?
Absolutely. And I think this next guest does not even need an introduction. They are absolutely magnificent, full stop. And you'll soon see exactly what we mean by that. I'm going to stop talking and the video is going to start rolling.
Hi everyone, I am Ashley Spires. I am the author and illustrator of several books, some of which you might recognize, like this guy right here. Oh, and there's that guy. And there's also this one right here. Oh, and maybe you know him, and you might even know her too, actually. I've been busy. So I'm joining you today from beautiful British Columbia, where I live in South Delta, just 15 minutes from where I grew up in Tawasin. And I'm here to talk to you guys today about what I love reading Canadian. I grew up loving Canadian books. In particular, my favorite was, of course, The Paperback Princess, where I discovered that princesses can not only outwit a dragon, but they can also call a lazy guy a bum, which was my favorite part. Now, when I was growing up, we had Canadian books, but we didn't have nearly as many amazing Canadian books as there are out there now. Maybe you know some of them, but these are just a few of my absolute favorites. This one's so good. And this one is so good. And have you read this one? Oh my gosh. And oh my gosh, this one, absolutely. And maybe you've seen this one, it's brand new. And this one, classic. Oh, and of course, who doesn't love Steve? I could go on and on and on forever because there are so many amazing Canadian books. But if by chance you happen to get maybe a little bit stuck on what you want to read, may I suggest perhaps my new book? Yes, shameless plug here. Some of you guys might recognize this one, The Most Magnificent Thing, which came out a while ago, but I actually have a brand new book all about the same girl, The Most Magnificent Idea. And this is about the same girl in the first book who couldn't make something just right. This is the day she wakes up without an idea. So maybe if you're stuck on what to read Canadian, maybe you'll pick up this book. Maybe you'll pick up one of the amazing other books that I have shown you, or the millions that are out there that are by extraordinary Canadians. So please go out there, read books, read Canadian, and remember, we all need to read Canadian. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Ashley. You know what? You know what's also a magnificent idea, Wally?
Uh-huh.
A musical interlude.
Absolutely.
How does that sound? Yes?
I love that. So next up, we're going to get up, stretch, maybe do some dancing, and listen to a song sung by two-time Juno winner Taze Levitt, better known as Boots from Splash and Boots, from the book A Starlight Trip to the Library.
When the stars begin to wink across the sky, I sometimes get a twinkle in my eye. I dream of things I've never thought before. I dream of something more. I take a starlit trip to the library, and my heart jumps over the moon. And if I need a hand, I've got my friends with me on the starlit trip to the library. Oh, I've heard it said a book is a boat that bears us lands away, and even in the forests of the night helps to light our way. And I know of a place where anyone can go to set sail on a journey into the unknown. So I take a starlit trip to the library, and my heart jumps over the moon. And if I need a hand, I've got my friends with me on the starlit trip, on the starlit trip, on the starlit trip to the library.
Merci. Bonjour, my name is Mireille Messier and I'm a Canadian children's author. Je m'appelle Mireille Messier et je suis une auteure, ou on peut aussi dire une autrice, mais on peut pas dire une autruche, franco-ontarienne et donc canadienne. J'ai toujours aimé les histoires. Petite, je lisais beaucoup et même aujourd'hui, je lis énormément. Et les histoires que je préfère, ce sont les histoires d'auteurs canadiens. As I was growing up in Ottawa, going to my local library branch on Rideau Street was a huge part of my life. Mais les histoires que j'y trouvais se déroulaient presque toujours en France ou aux États-Unis. Elles étaient où les histoires qui se passaient chez nous? But that was then. Now there is a plethora, yes, a plethora of wonderful stories by Canadian authors about Canadian things and Canadian places. Like my book, Sergeant Billy, The True Story of the Goat Who Went to War, which is the true story of a goat from Saskatchewan who was a brave military mascot during World War I. So go out there and find those stories, read those stories, and celebrate those stories. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, il y a plein de livres canadiens pour nous. À tous et toutes, je vous souhaite une bonne journée. I Read Canadian.
Okay. Mireille, that was a wonderful message. Thank you for that. I have a question for you. Do you remember the first book you took out from the library?
That I would have been a toddler. So I don't remember. I just remember just going there was part of my routine. I would go and just like take out like armfuls of books in French, in English, funny books, sad books. And when I discovered that some authors were actually from the city that I lived in, I found that so exciting. And right now we have people that are from all over Canada that are listening today. We have people from Alberta. Shout out to Alberta. Yeah. There's Saskatchewan. I know there's people from Ontario, all over Ontario that are here right now. So hello and thank you for joining us.
That's right. Awesome. I think we have a couple more people on our list of authors and guests today. Do you want to introduce the next ones?
Absolutely. Now the next one is, it's two sisters that are also illustrators. How exciting is that?
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Hi, I'm Canadian children's book creator Debbie Ridpath, and I wrote and illustrated Sam and Eva and Where Are My Books?
And I'm Ruth, also a Canadian children's book author illustrator, and my newest books include Blanket and Choose Kindness.
We both grew up in the wonderful Brampton, Ontario.
And yes, we are sisters.
My favorite books from childhood include Anne of Green Gables by Ellen Montgomery and Lost in the Barrens by Farley Mowat.
One of my favorite Canadian books growing up was From Anna by Jean Little.
We're very excited to be with you today because Canadian books are so worth celebrating.
And to celebrate, we'd like to create something with you today.
Creating a picture book is a team effort. Sometimes the author and illustrator are the same and sometimes they're not.
Creators work with so many people, including the editor, art director, and publisher. Now Debbie and I are going to team up and make our own creation. Thanks for helping us celebrate.
Happy I Read Canadian Day!
That was wonderful.
That
You
was
know,
amazing.
I was just I love their energy. That was fantastic. And I was thinking, since I asked you this question, was wondering if I could ask everybody on the call today the same question. Maybe in your own individual classrooms, if you guys want to talk about what your favorite book was growing up, or what book you first took from the library. And for the staff, the teachers that are joining us, if you want to let us know in the chat, what were some of those first books that the students got, or what were the first books that you as teachers got in the library? What did you guys first pick up when you started reading? Let us know in the chat. We would love to know what those books were and what exactly you enjoyed reading. And I'm going to pass it back to Mireille for what's next.
That's a really, really good question. And, you know, when you talk about Canadian books, one of the first duos you might think about is a very famous author, Robert Munsch. And when you think Robert Munsch, you probably think Michael Martchenko, who is the illustrator of most of Robert Munsch's books. So let's go see what he has to say for I Read Canadian Day.
Hello, I'm Michael Martchenko. I was born in France, and I came to Canada when I was 7 with my family, and lived in Toronto most of my life. And I've had the good fortune to start working with Robert Munsch years ago, and still do. And it's been a really wonderful association. I've illustrated over 100 books, and about over half of those would be with Robert Munsch. I wrote 2 books and illustrated them, and worked with other authors. So it bulked it up to over 100 books. Favorite books that I've illustrated are a lot of them. Paperback Princess obviously was one. I really started my career as a children's book illustrator, which I'm very grateful for. And a few Smelly Socks, that was fun. Give Me Back My Dad, that was a fun one to do. Really quite a few. The hockey book, One More Goal, that was good. One particular, I can only mention the paperback because it was it really started off. So I suppose that's probably my favorite, but there's been quite a few that I've really enjoyed working on, and been quite happy with the results. The Ultimate Canadian Book. Most of Bob's stories take place in different parts of Canada because he used to travel a lot, and where he got a lot of his ideas. Playhouse was about a family in Saskatchewan. No Clean Clothes was British Columbia. Smelly Socks was in northern, I think High River it was called, up in northern Canada. So a lot of his books have quite a Canadian feel to them. Bring Back My Dad, which took place in Labrador, and which is obviously a very Canadian place. Stephanie's Pony Job took place in, I made it Toronto. I used our local school when I lived in Toronto, in Leaside, Rolfe Road, for all the interiors. So that's had a definite Canadian bent. Getting further away from Toronto, we did a story about Class Clowns, which takes place in Texas, about a couple of kids from Mexico, or one especially. And I still had to stick a little bit of Canadian in there, putting the map of Canada on and I believe a flag of Canada on the back wall in the background. I like sticking little things like that in and out. Just that's me. That's what I do. Thomas Snows takes place in the winter, where Canada's always associated with being such a cold country, and people come up here in July with their skis on their car. But if you know the story, it's a little boy that would refuse to put on a snowsuit, and gets into a big brawl with his teachers. I think it's important to support the Canadian book industry. We have some wonderful writers, wonderful illustrators. I'm talking about not just children's books. When I started children's book illustrating books, there were very few Canadian books. They were mostly from the States and England. And since then, which has been quite a while, the industry has grown greatly. I mean, and the authors, illustrators win awards, international awards that They get awards in Canada. It's the sales are great. People love them. If you go in the children's book section of any store, you'll see a lot of Canadian authors and illustrators. And it's good to talk about Canada. Canada's a great country. You know, it's got a lot to offer. And if you can feature it, even in a small way, in a book, especially visually, as I do, I try to sneak in Canadian things whenever I can. And again, it just, support Canadian author illustrators, which are, as far as I'm concerned, the best in the world. We can compete with anybody. Our last book that Robert and I did this last year just came out, called Leaves. Appropriate for this time of year. It's about a dad that wants his kids to rake the leaves. The girl discovers the leaf blower in the garage, and it has different dials on it to go. It goes from sort of 10 to wow. So predictably, they keep cranking it up and creating all kinds of issues. And the dad finally takes away, and he's the worst one. He puts it up to wow, and he blows away all the furniture, some of the animals in the backyard, even buries the mum. And it's a typical silly munch story that I had a lot of fun, always a lot of visual scope in his stories. And I get fair free hand to do whatever I want. So I had a ball with this one. And a lot of leaves. I went through a lot of orange paint. Anyway, nice talking to you guys again. And keep reading. I mean, keep reading our books, but with just our books, there's other authors and illustrators out there. Yeah, they're good too. I read Canadian.
That was amazing to hear from such a legend of Canadian literature. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Now, my favorite Robert Munch book is one of the rare books that was not illustrated by Michael Martchenko. It was illustrated by Hélène Desputeaux, and the French title is Mais où donc est Ganning? I believe in English it's Where's Ganning? And it takes place in Kapuskasing, Ontario, which is close to where my family is from. So that one always had a special place in my heart.
That's awesome. Mireille, I actually wanted to share my favorite book with you that I read growing up. Me and my mom, we would read Love You Forever before I would go to bed. And obviously, Love You Forever is a popular book by Robert Munch. But I remember that book being very, very emotional, even as I got older and I would read it. Those passages about time progressing and things being different as you get older, it really hits a tone, and you can read that even as an adult and still feel emotional about it. So it was really wonderful to hear from a Canadian legend that has really done some great work for so many children and adults in our country.
Absolutely. Now, Wali, did you want to introduce our next guest?
Absolutely. I think that would be great. You can find their books in stores and schools and libraries all across the country. And one of them, Lana Button, has a book that can even be found as a part of a Happy Meal. Take a look.
Hi, everyone. I'm Canadian picture book author Lana Button. I live in Burlington, Ontario, and I've been lucky to live in Montreal, Quebec, and Vancouver, British Columbia, but I will always be an Atlantic Canadian by heart. I was born and raised in wonderful St. Stephen, New Brunswick, which isn't far from where my picture book partner, Hatem Ali, lives now. Hi, Hatem.
Hi, Lana. Thank you for the introduction. This is me, Hatem. I'm speaking to you from Bathurst, New Brunswick, and this is where I've been living for like several years. And I wasn't as lucky as Lana that I lived many places in Canada, but I've visited a lot of places, and I'm excited to see where the future will take me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. The thing that I love most about Canada, Hatem, is in Atlantic Canada, it's the Bay of Fundy. I love being close to the Bay of Fundy. Just being close to that water makes me so happy. And the other thing that I love about Canada is this time of year, the leaves are so beautiful. One of my favorite things still to do is to walk along the sidewalk and kick the leaves.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I have a lot to say about that, but like the one thing I have to say is the nature is amazing here. Like I was born in Cairo, Egypt, and it's totally different. It's a big noisy city, and I hold it very dear to my heart. But like when you see the nature here, it's like makes it so amplified because it's so different in many ways. Like the colors of the leaves in the fall, the whiteness of the snow in the winter. Although like it gets annoying, isn't it? Doesn't it? But you get to like kind of love. Like it's very different and very amazing. It almost has like this kind of first impression on me that was very amplified.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I think Hatem and I are the perfect team because we both love picture books, but my favorite part is creating the story, writing the story.
Yeah, my favorite part is drawing the pictures.
So we together created the picture book, Raj's Role for the Bathroom at School. So it started off with the words that I created, the story that I created. It started like this. My name is Raj, and I have a rule. I never use the bathroom at school. I could use that bathroom, but I only go in my bathroom at home. That's the bathroom I know. So all day at school, I take no bathroom trips. You'll have to see what happens, read the story. But I handed the words over to Hatem.
Yes, and I drew the pictures. I'm gonna show you just a little bit of how I thought about the pictures in the book. There you go. This is me. Hello. Raj's rule for the bathroom at school process. Okay, this is the character design. I start off by getting to know Raj, like who is that guy? Who's Raj? And I start to sketch a lot of rough sketches. I didn't show them all here, but I just showed just the clean ones that are very neat. And I try to see how he looks like from different angles. So I end up doing this turnaround. It was pretty cool. I even animated it just for fun. And the next, I'm good to go. And there I moved to the interiors, where I take what Lana wrote and try to apply it for a scene. Like it's almost like making a movie out of it. You just imagine how it would look like, what's the classroom like. And I start off very, very rough and very fast just to get it out of my head. Then next, I clean it up a little bit and I fix whatever wasn't working in the first one. And I try to kind of make space for the text. And there you go. This is the final after it's colored and everything is finalized. Of course, like we have to go back and forth with the publisher to know what works. Same goes for the cover too. I just did it very quickly here. From sketch to final, it goes in the same process. It's rough sketch to final like that. And that's it.
That's so cool. That's so cool to see that process. So, and together we created the perfect picture book team of Raj's Role for the Bathroom at School. Hatem, this is so awesome to spend this time with you today. And we want to say happy I Read Canadian Day to everyone out there. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Hatem, and thank you, Lana. That was very interesting. I love seeing that process work and seeing all the steps that it takes to make a Canadian book.
Absolutely. I think it's really cool too for everyone that is interested in illustration to understand what also goes into the part of getting a book together, right? Because it's not just the words are half of it, but then the illustrations are the other half.
Absolutely. Now, I was told that today, well, because it's I Read Canadian Day, people are tweeting about their favorite Canadian book and putting pictures online. And there's a hashtag that you should use.
And the hashtag is I Read Canadian. And we are number 4 on Twitter in terms of trending. And we want to get that up to number 1. So I need everyone in this call today to jump on Twitter, share a photo, share an experience of your favorite Canadian book, and tweet it up there. Let's get to number 1 and be trending in Canada. I think we can do it. And you guys are going to make it happen. We're all going to make it happen together. Let's get it trending in Canada.
Et en français, le mot-clic, hashtag is mot-clic, is also I Read Canadian. Donc, mot-clic, I Read Canadian ou des livres canadiens pour moi, qui est beaucoup plus long. But you can use either or, and let's make it number one. That'll be fun.
Mireille, do you want to introduce our next guest?
Our next guest. Who is our next guest? I got so excited by the mot-clic that I forgot. Our next guest is. I know our next guest. It's somebody that is known throughout this activities in broadcast and has a tech master. Is helping keep us moving along. Born and raised in a Red Deer. Here he is.
Yes, I'm Sigmund Brouwer here in the Story Ninja studio where I love talking about stories, and who doesn't love kittens? Yeah, I live out in the country near Red Deer, Alberta, and those were our kittens and at my home office. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about kittens was because of my series, the Charlie's Rules series, where Amy and Charlie get to be helpers for a veterinarian. And wait a minute, is that a cow in a tree? Yes. It was a cow in a tree, and a lot of my stories are based on things in real life that I changed through daydreaming. And I read about a veterinarian who discovered that the cow had not climbed into the tree, but instead slid off a steep hillside and landed inside the tree. And authors love daydreaming stories and changing them and putting them into their own words. And I love to read Canadian. I have to tell you, my favorite stories by a Canadian author, the Hardy Boys. Yes, Leslie Charles McFarlane wrote so many of them, and that's what hooked me on reading in Red Deer, where I grew up at George Wilbur Smith Elementary School. And when I began to write some stories, I thought it'd be so cool to help animals, and that's why I've got Hush Puppy right here in front of you, and I hope you give it a chance. It starts with a man trapped inside of a car by bees. Yes, Amy and Charlie look out the window, and that's what they see. And Amy says, well, I'll grab a fire extinguisher. We'll spray the bees off. But when they get to the car, well, you can read what happens. The man says, I stopped just down the road to let my dog out for a walk. And we got back in. The bees swarmed. Driving down the road didn't shake him loose. I saw your sign and thought a vet would know what to do. He gave a weak smile. The fire extinguisher is a good idea. I know, right? Amy said. A better idea is to open the door, Charlie said. What? Open the door? There's bees outside. But Charlie had quickly Googled why bees swarm cars. Did I mention we get stories from real life? Here's what it looks like when bees are swarming a car. You know what it is? The queen bee is trapped inside the car. Yeah, watch this.
So our goal is going to be to try to catch the queen and put her in a nucleus box that I have with me on my tailgate right here. Okay, she's at the top right here. You see, she's a little bit larger than the other ones.
See what I mean? We have so much fun, and by we, I mean you. Any story you hear in real life that you like, you can change and make it into fiction and put it into your own words. And we have so many great Canadian authors who do that. Thanks for the chance to be here, for I love to read Canadian, and I hope you'll give these stories a chance when you love to read Canadian. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, my name is Wali Shah, and I'm super excited to be joining you for I Read Canadian Day. Now, you guys know I'm representing Mississauga, Ontario. I've been here many times, so you probably already know that I'm also a spoken word poet as well as a public speaker. But one thing that you might not know is that I am currently working on my first book. When I first started reading books, one of the books that stood out to me most when I was in middle school was a book called Bifocal. And it was written by Deb Ellis and Eric Walters. It was a book about a Pakistani boy as a main character. This was one of the first times that me as a Pakistani student had read a book with a Pakistani main character. And so it really stood out to me. Now, fast forward many years. Me and Eric Walters are working on our first book together. And this book is also following a young middle school kid named Ali. He's going through some challenges because of his Muslim and South Asian identity. It's a story that I think a lot of kids are going to relate to. Kids that grow up with similar stories to the main character and myself, but also kids that may have never gotten the chance to lean into Muslim and South Asian culture and traditions. So stay tuned, as this book will be out late next year. Now, what I want to do is share a quick poem that I have written that is a part of this book. I hope you enjoy this poem and can take some of the messages from what I just shared and what I'm about to share back with you for the rest of your school year. Enjoy. Minorities like us get attacked by so-called men. We hear their hurtful words again and again. Words like, go back home. Go back home. But this is home. Home with the strong and the free, where there's respect for each other, whoever we may be, where we embrace differences between you and me. If only we could agree. So this is for children like me and women like my mother. This is for all the people at war with each other. It's not your bullets, but your ignorance that kills. Like our struggles weren't enough getting by and paying bills. I used to think being a Muslim was a shame until I realized the meaning of my name. People generalize us and think we're one and the same, but when terrorists attack mosques, then who should we blame? It's time to seek the truth beneath the lies. And if you're looking for trouble, one day you'll realize we're not here to fight. We're here to forgive. We're not here to fight. We're here to let live. And along the way, may we learn to be better, because sometimes we have to fall so we can stand up together. Thank you.
Ooh, that was wonderful. Thank you, Sigmund and Wali. This is so exciting.
Thank you. I'm so glad you liked it. I'm really excited for the book, and it was really fun to just be able to share some of my poetry with everyone.
That was very, very good. Now, our next and final guests come to us from the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lee.
And I'm Hatem.
I'm from Vancouver, but you know what? I'd really love to be from Narnia.
You just stole the words right out of my mouth, because I have to say, I love Narnia too. I've always wanted to live there. But tell me something. Why is I Read Canadian Day so special for you?
Hey, I'm wearing the T-shirt. I love I Read Canadian Day. I love this community of Canadian creators and the readers, and I think this day is just so fabulous. It gives us an opportunity for us to all come together and celebrate so many great works written and illustrated by Canadians. What about you? Why is it so special for you?
You know what? I absolutely and 100% agree with you. It's just that there are so many wonderful Canadian writers, illustrators, performers, and this is the day when the spotlight is on them, and it's wonderful. I really think that we should get the spotlight, and it's great that it's not just here in Canada. Whoever tunes in from all across the world are going to see Canadian creators. So I love that. But one of the things that I want to tell you, Lee, and I know I've told you this before, but it bears repeating, I absolutely loved The Spell Sweeper. So is there anything you want to share with us? Any behind the scenes of why you wrote it? Just anything that you want to share with us?
Well, I was really kind of fascinated by the idea of writing a book about brooms that were magical, but were not for flying. So that was one of the main things. And one of the other things is that my grandfather used to make his own brooms. I actually have one of his brooms here. Wow. He actually grew the broom corn and fashioned all these brooms. This broom is older than I am. So I think there's part of that, that came from, that was coming down through my kind of family lore, this idea of brooms. Now, I am not the craftsman that my grandfather was, but a big part of my writing process is working with my hands and building things and incorporating objects. So I did build a lot of different things as I was writing Spell Sweeper. I made many brooms. They're not quite as practical as my grandfather's, but I made many spell sweeping brooms. I made so many different magical creature eggs, like this dragon egg here. This is definitely something you could find in the spell sweeping world. And I even made a spell sweeper kit. So this is the kind of kit that a spell sweeper would use in the spell sweeping world. So it has cleaning potions, goggles, another broom. It even has the manual. So that's just such a big part of my process and kind of, a behind the scenes glimpse of spell sweeper. But Mahtab, as you know, I also adore your book, Valley of the Rats. And I love it so much that I incorporate it all the time in the creative writing classes I teach for kids. But one thing I know about you is that you do not like creepy crawlies, especially rats. So what in the world possessed you to write a book filled with rats?
I know. I mean, you know what? You're so right. First of all, I loved hearing the behind the scenes on Spell Sweeper. That's great. Really fun to know where all the ideas come from. And as far as I'm concerned, the only kind of rats that I can handle are the toy ones. So I've been with this little squeaky thing out here, and there's another toy one behind me. But other than that, you know what? I just find that a lot of the stuff that evokes very strong emotion in me, especially, fear or love or joy or whatever, but most definitely fear, it's something that I can use. And if I can put it into a book and, describe it really well, then I can, share that same emotion that I'm feeling with my readers. And that's exactly what I did with Valley of the Rats. I mean, some of the scenes that I wrote were absolutely horrifying. And I horrified myself when I wrote it. I had to kind of stop and walk away from the keyboard saying, what am I doing here? But you know what? It was fun. And a lot of the feedback that I'm getting from people is it was terrifying to read, but it was always fun. And I'm always up for a fun ride, a story that people enjoy and feel the emotions that I've been feeling. So, that's pretty much where I'm from. And so I know we don't have too much time. So any last words from you, Lee, for the audience?
Hey, everyone. I just want to wish you a fabulous I Read Canadian Day. Go out and celebrate by checking out Mahtab's book, my book, any book that's created by a Canadian writer or illustrator. That would be a fantastic way to honor this day. Any last words from you, Mahtab?
Yes, absolutely. And same thing, have a fantastic I Read Canadian Day. And just go out, support your Canadian creators and support your independent bookstores. Just go out there, buy a book. And if you can't, that's fine. Just go to a library and borrow a Canadian book. Enjoy this day. Thanks so much for listening to us.
Merci, Mahtab. Merci, Lee Edward. Ça a été une belle présentation. I think we're almost done. Wally, is that correct?
I think you're right, Mireille. I think we're getting there. I think there's just one last thing I want to share with everybody. And, before we get there, it's just been such a pleasure to be hosting today and have my co-host Mireille with me today. It was wonderful. I want to say thank you to everybody for coming and joining us for this wonderful opportunity here to celebrate Canadian literature. We are so grateful for all of you joining us and being a part of this incredible day. We also want to give a thank you to Zoom Communications for the support and making today possible, as well as our other supporters and sponsors. Really, it's all of us coming together to make it happen and to read Canadian.
Merci à tout le monde d'être des nôtres, de célébrer avec nous la journée des livres canadiens pour moi. Et on va se quitter sur la chanson en français du livre une journée de nuit à la Bibli, un voyage de nuit à la Bibli. Et on vous souhaite une bonne journée I Read Canadian. Merci tout le monde. Au revoir.
Bye, everyone.
Quand le ciel se couvre d'un infini d'étoiles, mes yeux miroirs brillent aussi dans le noir. Je rêve parfois de hisser la grand voile et de quitter le port, partir en voyage de nuit. Poussé par une brise d'été, je ne serai pas seule, j'amènerai mes amis j'entends claquer les pages sous le vent. Je préfère voguer sur un livre flottant. Ce soir débute la grande expédition pour tous les moussaillons. Et nous prendrons le large sans peur et plein de courage pour explorer les mers jusqu'au bout de l'imaginaire. Partir en voyage de nuit, un